Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun!
A gentle breeze carried the faint scent of blooming jasmine from the garden, mingling with the aroma of spices and simmering sauces. In the heart of this culinary sanctuary stood a figure, delicately stirring a pot of rich, savory stew. At first glance, one might have mistaken the cook for a petite woman, gracefully moving about the kitchen with practiced ease. The flowing skirt swished softly with each step, and nimble fingers adjusted the strap of a floral apron. But beneath the feminine attire beat the heart of a young man, pulse quickening with a mix of exhilaration and trepidation. For years, the urge to explore this hidden facet of identity had simmered just beneath the surface, like a pot threatening to boil over. Today, with parents away and the house blissfully empty, that long-suppressed desire had finally bubbled up and demanded to be acknowledged. The decision to raid Mom's closet hadn't come easily. Palms grew sweaty and breath caught in the throat as hesitant steps approached the forbidden threshold. But once inside that treasure trove of silks and cottons, inhibitions melted away. Fingers trailed reverently over soft fabrics, savoring textures so different from the usual wardrobe of jeans and t-shirts. After careful deliberation, the chosen ensemble emerged, a knee-length navy skirt with delicate pleats, paired with a cream-colored blouse adorned with tiny pearl buttons. The apron, a cherished family heirloom, passed down through generations, completed the transformation. Standing before the full-length mirror, a stranger gazed back. Gone was the awkward young man, replaced by someone altogether different, someone with an air of quiet confidence and grace. The reflection smiled, a secret dancing in eyes rimmed with uncertainty and excitement. Padding barefoot to the kitchen, a new persona began to take shape. No longer just a curious boy playing dress-up, but a skilled chef ready to create culinary magic. Cooking had always been a passion, but today it felt different. More purposeful, more powerful. Ingredients were gathered with purpose: ripe tomatoes, fragrant herbs, plump chicken thighs. Each item carefully selected and lovingly prepared. The knife moved with newfound precision, dicing onions and mincing garlic. Olive oil shimmered in the pan, ready to receive its aromatic treasures. As the kitchen filled with tantalizing scents, tension gradually eased from shoulders that had been hunched with nervous energy. The rhythmic chopping and stirring became a meditation of sorts, allowing thoughts to wander and explore this uncharted territory of self-expression. What would it be like to move through the world like this every day? To feel the brush of fabric against bare legs, to carry oneself with the poise and grace society typically reserved for women? The questions swirled like steam rising from the simmering pot, impossible to grasp, but impossible to ignore. A dollop of tomato paste added depth to the stew, its rich color a stark contrast to pale, slender fingers. Those same hands had always felt too delicate, too expressive. Features often described as pretty for a boy now seemed to make perfect sense, framed by flowing hair and softened by the drape of feminine clothing. The wooden spoon moved in lazy circles, blending flavors and textures into a harmonious whole. Similarly, two seemingly disparate parts of an identity were slowly melding together, the familiar and the newly discovered, the masculine and the feminine, the hidden and the revealed. A particularly vigorous stir sent a drop of sauce flying, leaving a crimson stain on the pristine apron. For a moment, panic flared. Would Mom notice? But then came a startling realization. The tiny imperfection only added character, like a beauty mark on otherwise flawless skin. Perhaps embracing this part of oneself didn't require absolute perfection. Maybe the rough edges and small mishaps were part of the journey. Time seemed to flow differently in this liminal space. Minutes stretched and compressed, marked only by the steady ticking of the kitchen clock and the occasional bubbling of the stew. The usual anxieties and self-doubt receded, replaced by a sense of purpose and belonging. Tasting the stew revealed it needed a touch more seasoning. Salt was added with a delicate flick of the wrist, an unconsciously feminine gesture that felt surprisingly natural. Each small movement reinforced the growing realization that this wasn't just about playing dress-up. It was about exploring a fundamental aspect of identity that had long been pushed aside. As the aroma of herbs and spices filled the air, memories surfaced of watching Mom cook countless meals in this very kitchen. How many times had those same movements been observed and internalized? The way she'd hum softly while chopping vegetables, or the precise angle at which she'd tilt the pan to baste a roasting chicken. Without realizing it, those countless hours of observation had laid the groundwork for this moment of transformation. The stew simmered gently, flavors melding and deepening. Similarly, disparate pieces of self were slowly coming together, creating something richer and more complex than before. It wasn't about rejecting one part of identity in favor of another, but rather about embracing the full spectrum of possibility. Bare feet padded across cool tile as various cupboards were opened and closed, searching for the perfect serving dish. Fingertips lingered on the smooth curves of bowls and the delicate handles of ladles. Even these simple objects seemed to take on new significance, their forms more appreciated through this different lens. Plating the meal became an art form in itself. The deep, earthy tones of the stew contrasted beautifully with the crisp white of the bowl. A sprig of fresh herbs added a pop of color, transforming a simple comfort food into something worthy of a gourmet restaurant. Standing back to admire the finished product, a swell of pride rose in the chest. This wasn't just good cooking. It was a statement, a declaration of skill and creativity that transcended gender norms. The table was set with care, each element arranged just so. Cloth napkins were folded into intricate shapes, water glasses polished to a sparkling shine. It was a level of attention to detail that might have seemed fussy or unnecessary before, but now felt like a natural extension of this newfound persona. Settling into a chair at the head of the table, skirt carefully smoothed beneath, came a moment of quiet reflection. The house remained blessedly empty, the only sounds the gentle clink of utensils and the soft rustle of fabric. In this peaceful bubble, removed from the expectations and judgments of the outside world, it was possible to simply exist. To savor not just the flavors of a lovingly prepared meal, but the experience of inhabiting a different version of oneself. The first bite was a revelation. Somehow the food tasted better than anything cooked before. Was it the result of extra care and attention to detail? Or perhaps the confidence that came from fully embracing this hidden aspect of identity? Whatever the reason, each mouthful was savored, appreciated on a level that went far beyond mere sustenance. As the meal progressed, thoughts turned to the future. How would this experience change things going forward? Would there be more opportunities to explore this side of oneself, or would it remain a carefully guarded secret? The questions swirled like the last bits of stew in the bowl, impossible to ignore but equally impossible to answer definitively. The sound of a car in the driveway shattered the reverie. Heart racing, Hands fumbled with dishes and utensils. The spell was broken, reality crashing back in with jarring force. In a flurry of movement, evidence of the afternoon's activities was erased. Skirt and blouse were hastily exchanged for familiar jeans and a t-shirt, the comfort of well-worn cotton both a relief and a disappointment. By the time the front door opened, all traces of the secret chef had vanished. But the memory lingered, a warm glow in the pit of the stomach that had nothing to do with the meal, just consumed. Something fundamental had shifted. A door opened that could never be fully closed again. "Something smells amazing!" Mom's voice called from the entryway. "Did you cook?" "Yeah, just tried out a new recipe," came the reply, voice carefully modulated to its usual pitch. "There's plenty left if you're hungry." As the family gathered around the table, praising the meal and chatting about their day, it took every ounce of self-control not to blurt out the afternoon's revelations. The secret simmered just below the surface, a delicious morsel of truth held close to the heart. Later that night, lying in bed and replaying every moment of the transformative experience, a decision was made. This wouldn't be a one-time experiment, quickly forgotten and brushed aside. It was the first step on a journey of self-discovery, one that promised both challenges and rewards in equal measure. Fingertips traced the phantom sensation of silk against skin, mind wandering to the possibilities that lay ahead. Perhaps next time it would be more than just cooking. A trip to the mall, carefully planned to avoid running into anyone familiar, or even just a quiet afternoon reading in the backyard, basking in the sun and the freedom to be one's authentic self. The path forward wasn't clear, and there would undoubtedly be obstacles to overcome. But for now, it was enough to savor the memory of that perfect afternoon. The confidence, the creativity, the sense of finally feeling comfortable in one's own skin. It was a taste of something beautiful and true, a glimpse of a future filled with self-acceptance and endless possibility. As sleep finally claimed its hold, dreams were filled with swirling skirts and simmering pots, the lines between different aspects of identity blurring and merging into a kaleidoscope of color and sensation. In those quiet hours of the night, free from the constraints of societal expectations, the true self was free to dance and twirl and create, reveling in the joy of simply being. The morning brought with it a renewed sense of purpose. Eyes that had once avoided the mirror now sought out their reflection, searching for traces of the person who had emerged in yesterday's culinary adventure. Though outwardly everything appeared the same, there was an undeniable shift in demeanor, a straightening of the spine, a lift of the chin, a quiet confidence that hadn't been there before. Breakfast was a solitary affair, parents having left early for work. Sitting at the kitchen table, absently stirring a bowl of cereal, it was impossible not to recall the previous day's transformation. The chair that had felt like a throne, the carefully laid place setting, the sense of inhabiting a different skin. Even now, in the harsh light of day and stripped of its feminine trappings, that feeling of empowerment lingered. School loomed on the horizon, a daunting prospect after such a profound personal revelation. How does one carry such a weighty secret through the mundane routine of classes and homework? Each interaction with friends and teachers now felt charged with new significance, as if at any moment someone might see through the carefully constructed facade and glimpse the truth hidden beneath. Walking to the bus stop, every step was a conscious effort in maintaining the usual gait and posture. Gone was yesterday's graceful glide, replaced by the familiar slouch and shuffle. But with each block, resolve strengthened. This secret wasn't a burden to be ashamed of, but a source of strength, a private wellspring of confidence to draw upon when faced with the daily trials of teenage life. The day passed in a blur of lectures and assignments, punctuated by stolen moments of daydreaming. Idle doodles in the margins of notebooks took on new forms, flowing skirts and delicate blouses, interspersed with recipe ideas and menu plans. In history class, a lesson on gender roles throughout the ages took on newfound fascination. How many others throughout time had grappled with similar questions of identity and self-expression? Lunchtime brought its own unique challenges. Sitting with the usual group of friends, it was almost painful to bite back the words that threatened to spill forth. How would they react if they knew? Would there be acceptance, confusion, disgust? The weight of unspoken truth made even casual conversation feel like navigating a minefield. "You seem different today," one friend remarked, head tilted in curiosity. "Did something happen?" Heart racing, a non-committal shrug was the only safe response. "Just didn't sleep great last night. Weird dreams, you know?" The moment passed, conversation moving on to safer topics, but the close call served as a stark reminder of the complexities that lay ahead. How long could this remain a closely guarded secret? And more importantly, did it need to be? The final bell brought both relief and anticipation. Home beckoned, with its promise of privacy and the opportunity to further explore this newfound aspect of self. But there was also trepidation. Would the magic of yesterday be recaptured, or had it been a fleeting moment of clarity, never to be repeated? Entering the empty house, a sense of possibility hung in the air. School bag was discarded, shoes kicked off with uncharacteristic abandon. Feet carried their owner almost unconsciously toward Mom's room, drawn by the siren song of silk and lace. But at the threshold, hesitation took hold. Was it right to borrow without permission? What if something was damaged or stained? After a moment's internal debate, a compromise was reached. This time, the exploration would happen with clothes already owned. Baggy jeans were exchanged for the tightest pair in the closet. A plain white t-shirt was knotted at the waist, exposing a strip of midriff. It wasn't quite the same as yesterday's elegant ensemble, but it was a start, a small step toward bridging the gap between two seemingly disparate identities. Standing before the mirror, critically examining this new look, a plan began to form. If this was truly going to be more than just a secret indulgence, preparation would be key. A mental list took shape. Discreet online purchases, a hidden stash of makeup, maybe even a wig for those times when a more dramatic transformation was desired. The rest of the afternoon was spent in research mode, hunched over a laptop with multiple browser windows open. How-to guides for makeup application were bookmarked, along with tips for finding clothes that would flatter a more masculine frame. Pages of notes were filled with terminology previously encountered only in passing, terms like gender fluid and non-binary that seemed to resonate on a deep, instinctual level. As the hours ticked by and the sound of a car in the driveway signaled the end of solitude, a sense of calm settled over the house. The journey ahead would undoubtedly be challenging, filled with moments of doubt and fear, but it would also be a journey of self-discovery, of pushing boundaries and finding strength in vulnerability. Dinner that night was a family affair, Mom insisting on reheating yesterday's leftover stew. Sitting at the table, surrounded by the comforting sounds of casual conversation and clinking cutlery, came a moment of clarity. This, the warmth of family, the satisfaction of creating something delicious, this was the constant. Everything else, gender expression, societal expectations, the labels we choose for ourselves. These were fluid, ever-changing aspects of the human experience. "This really is delicious," Dad remarked between bites. "You've got a real talent in the kitchen. Maybe you should think about culinary school after graduation." The comment, meant as a casual compliment, took on new weight in light of recent revelations. Was this a path worth pursuing? A way to merge passion for cooking with the freedom to express oneself authentically?
"Maybe,"
came the non-committal reply. "I'll definitely think about it." As plates were cleared and the kitchen put to rights, a sense of anticipation began to build. Tomorrow was Saturday, a whole day stretching out with no obligations, no prying eyes, no need to conform to anyone's expectations but one's own. The possibilities seemed endless. Sleep came easily that night, dreams once again filled with visions of a future self, confident, creative, unapologetically authentic. In those quiet hours, free from the constraints of the waking world, two halves of a whole began to merge and find harmony. The first rays of morning sun filtered through half-closed blinds, gently coaxing eyes open to greet the new day. For a moment, disorientation set in. Where was the flowing skirt, the silky blouse? But as sleep-fogged brain cleared, excitement took hold. Today was a blank canvas, waiting to be filled with bold strokes of self-expression. Feet hit the cool floor with purpose, padding softly down the hallway to avoid waking still slumbering parents. The kitchen, scene of that first transformative experience, beckoned with its promise of creation and comfort. Ingredients were gathered with care: eggs, milk, flour, a pinch of cinnamon. The ritual of making Saturday morning pancakes took on new significance, each motion infused with the grace and poise cultivated during that secret afternoon of cooking. As batter sizzled on the griddle, mind wandered to the possibilities that lay ahead. Would today be another day of private exploration, safely hidden behind locked doors? Or was it time to take a tentative step into the world, testing the waters of public perception? The decision crystallized as the last pancake was flipped onto the growing stack. Baby steps. A trip to the mall, not fully transformed, but with subtle nods to femininity. A oversized sweater borrowed from Mom's closet, paired with the tightest jeans in the wardrobe. A swipe of tinted lip balm, barely noticeable but enough to boost confidence. A note was scrawled and left on the kitchen table. "Gone to the mall, back for dinner," before slipping out into the crisp morning air. The walk to the bus stop felt both terrifying and exhilarating, each step a conscious choice to embrace authenticity. The mall bustled with weekend energy, a sea of faces both familiar and strange. For a heart-stopping moment, panic threatened to take hold. What if someone from school recognized this new version of self? But as the initial shock wore off, a sense of anonymity settled in. In this crowd, it was possible to be anyone, or anything. Feet carried their owner almost unconsciously toward the makeup counter of a department store. Fingers trailed over sleek packaging, marveling at the array of colors and textures. A friendly sales associate approached, offering assistance with a warm smile. "Just browsing," came the awkward reply, voice pitched slightly higher than usual. "No problem. Let me know if you need any help finding the perfect shade." The interaction, brief as it was, sent a thrill down the spine. She hadn't batted an eye, hadn't questioned or judged. It was a small victory, but a significant one. Emboldened, the rest of the afternoon was spent wandering from store to store. In the safety of dressing rooms, skirts were tried on and twirled in. Blouses were buttoned with trembling fingers. Each new outfit was a glimpse into a possible future, a version of self waiting to be fully realized. At a small boutique tucked away in a quiet corner of the mall, a scarf caught wandering eyes. Soft silk in shades of blue and green, it seemed to shimmer under the fluorescent lights. Without overthinking, it was purchased, the first tangible step toward building a new wardrobe. The bus ride home was a study in contrasts. Underneath the borrowed sweater and behind carefully neutral expression, a heart soared with newfound confidence. Yet there was also an undercurrent of anxiety. How long could this double life be maintained? When would the moment come to share this truth with loved ones? Arriving home, the house was mercifully empty. A hastily scrawled note from Mom explained they'd gone to visit Grandma for the afternoon. The solitude was welcome, providing space to process the day's experiences. In the safety of a locked bedroom, the scarf was unwrapped with reverence. Fingers traced the delicate patterns, marveling at the way the colors shifted in the light. Draped around bare shoulders, it felt like a suit of armor, a talisman of self-acceptance and courage. Standing before the full-length mirror, a decision was made. Small steps had been taken, but it was time for a leap of faith. The borrowed sweater was exchanged for Mom's blouse, carefully selected during that first afternoon of exploration. Baggy jeans gave way to the swish of a skirt. Hesitant hands applied a touch of mascara, a hint of blush. The reflection that gazed back was a revelation. Not quite male, not fully female, but something beautifully, authentically in between. Tears pricked at the corners of carefully lined eyes, but they were tears of joy and relief. This was truth. This was self. The sound of a car in the driveway shattered the moment of quiet contemplation. Panic flared, hands frantically reaching to undo buttons and hooks. But then, just as quickly, resolve solidified. No more hiding. No more shame. Taking a deep breath, shaking hands smoothed imaginary wrinkles from the skirt. Chin lifted, shoulders squared. Whatever came next, it would be faced with honesty and courage. Footsteps echoed in the hallway, followed by a gentle knock at the bedroom door.
Honey, we're home. Everything okay?
Another deep breath. This was it. The moment of truth.
Thanks for watching my girlies. Be sure to check out Patreon for more.